Hi guys, I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama, and I'm back from vacation. So we are going to get right back into lots of helpful, real, simple, honest content for chickens, especially if they're the complaining kind. Today's video is going to be about why are my chickens not laying eggs, or why aren't they laying more eggs. So we're going to go from the common issues and what's most likely down into some of the conditions and medical reasons that maybe your chickens are supposed to start laying by now. You thought you'd be getting eggs and you haven't, or maybe they were already laying eggs and now it's either slowed down or it's stopped completely. So we're going to analyze and troubleshoot why you're not getting more eggs while we watch my chickens be total brats. All right, so lucky for you, I've switched the camera so you don't have to see my face anymore, but unfortunately you still have to hear my voice. So let's talk about why you may not be getting eggs. So first of all, when should you expect eggs if you've got chicks or if you have young pullets? And just the vernacular, the wordage that I'm using, a chick obviously is a baby, could be a male or a female. A pullet is a female who has not started laying yet. Once she has started laying, she's called a hen. The equivalent for the male is he is a cockerel. Don't look at me, I'm not the one who made up the word. And then once he has reached adulthood, he's fully feathered, he's considered a rooster. Depending on the breed, and you need to go look it up because there are literally hundreds of breeds and variants and bantam versions and whatever of chickens. The age is usually 16 weeks, 18 weeks old when your chickens are fully feathered, which means a couple of things. Number one, it means both your male and female birds, they are now ready to go outside, because if they are fully feathered, they can control their body temperature. Except if you have a frizzle breed or a silky breed. Those birds, their types of feathers are not the traditional waterproof, smooth, shiny feathers. So they will never really be able to control their body temperature, particularly from getting really, really hot or really, really cold. But anyway, so the two main changes you'll notice is that your pullets and your cockerels are fully feathered. And the other thing is that your birds will start to lay. And really quick, mine probably won't do it on command because, you know. But when your pullets are getting close to being of laying age, oh, Lacey just did it. They'll do this little squat or this little bow. And they'll usually do it when you come in, or like if you go to try to pet them. Come on, and of course now they're not gonna do it, and I look like an idiot. If you get really close, then they will squat down. That bird is either laying eggs or she's ready to start laying eggs soon. If you wanna know why they do that, it's because they're ready to accept the rooster to mate. So there you go. Speaking of mating, and don't worry, we're staying G-rated here on the channel. Your hen will lay eggs irregardless of if there is a male or not around. You do not need a rooster for them to lay eggs. They will lay eggs anyway. Just like a female human will have a menstrual cycle once she hits puberty. It has nothing to do with whether or not she's been impregnated. Okay, and I hope those words don't make you uncomfortable because, you know, that's biology. That's how it works. But your hens will lay eggs. They're just not fertilized. So she can sit on them and sit on them and sit on them, and a chick's never going to come out because there was not a male. But your hens, you don't need to think, oh, do I need to get a rooster so that I can have eggs? No, the male is not necessary at all. Isn't that a beautiful thought? Just kidding, kind of. The male is only needed if you want to propagate, if you want chicks. Then, of course, you need to have a male. But otherwise, hens are born with all of the eggs in their oviduct that they're ever going to lay, which is, there are a lot of species of animals, including female humans, who are born with all of their eggs already in them, like by the time they are born. So with chickens, once they hit laying age, then they will lay regularly, and it just slows down as they get older. So first of all, make sure your bird's not too young and they're just not ready to start laying yet. When your bird first starts laying eggs, they're probably going to be really small. It'll be kind of sporadic, kind of weird. It's like starting up, you know, a new engine that's never worked before. They got to get all the kinks out, and that's totally normal. If you don't have a chicken journal, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you have one, just so you can say, hey, Calypso started laying on this date. Looks like her eggs are going to be dark brown. You know, Blue started laying on this date. Looks like her eggs are going to be green. So just to make sure. Now, once a chicken is 1.5, 2 years old, she will probably continue to lay because she still has that store of eggs in her body, but she's going to slow down a little bit just because her body's not as young anymore. She's not a spring chicken, right? She is, you know, her body is working on necessary functions, and to be honest, her body's number one priority is not making you breakfast. So if there are instances where, for example, your bird is getting older, mine are almost... they're almost 2.5, all of them, I think. I mean, most of them were adopted, but I'm guessing they're all about around the same age. And they lay, out of these 5 chickens, I usually get 3 eggs a day. And I keep track of who lays when, so everybody's laying 4 or 5 eggs a week. So it's not too bad. Most egg factories and stuff, once the birds get to 1.5 or 2 years, they will dump them. In some cases, it's just, hey, we auction these birds off for really cheap. Usually the birds that you're eating are well under a year old. In fact, most of the chicken that you buy at the store is a cockerel, because the meat is better. They're easier to cull and do all of that stuff when they're younger. So it's not like I'm going to use this bird for eggs as long as I can, and then once they're not really laying, then I'm going to eat them. That's normally not recommended just because the bird is a lot older. So once the egg factory says, hey, you aren't efficient anymore, I don't want to pay for you to take up space and pay to feed you, basically, then they get rid of them. So hopefully in probably October or November, I'm going to adopt some more hens. They're called battered hens or spent hens, and it's basically like, it's kind of like dumping the old greyhounds, once they were the dog, not the bus. Once they are, not fast enough, you don't have any use for me, so I don't want you anymore. So if you're looking for some chickens that just need some love, look into adopting hens or saving roosters if you can. But anyway, so that's the first thing I want to look at is the age of your birds, because they may, if they're not in the prime of their life, they're not going to lay every day. Okay. The next thing is, and this is more for if you've got birds who are out free ranging in a bigger space. Mine, of course, do have some outside areas that I go and patrol regularly, but they don't have a lot of good places to hide. The next 2 things you want to look at are sort of linked, and it's, have your chickens found a secret place to lay their eggs, or do you have a thief? So as far as secret places, anywhere that your chicken can potentially hop into, jump into, crawl into, dig under, whatever, they may go there to lay their eggs, because they do like a place that's a little bit more private. They do like a place that's covered. They will dig out old flower pots and lay in there. They will go under a really low-hanging bush. So like that, I don't know how well you can see it. There's like a rogue tree growing here in the fence. If that was bigger, maybe under there. They like to hide. If they can get under a shed or under your porch, they may go in there. I've seen chickens laying, in all kinds of weird places, wherever they can get. And I know the noise is crappy, I apologize. So you need to kind of look around, follow your bird, listen to their egg song, and hey, where do you go every day at 10 o'clock? Usually your chickens will lay their eggs after they've had a couple of hours of sunshine. And I always read, don't give them treats in the morning, like only let them have their layer feed and their water, and then do treats like in the afternoon or the evening. I've stuck to that. I don't know how true it is, but whatever. But your chickens are not going to lay eggs right at 7 o'clock in the morning, normally. Normally they need a couple hours of sunshine, which also means if it's winter, you may get less eggs because there's less hours of sunlight. So look for weird spots. I mean, there have been people on my chicken forum for San Antonio who have posted, there's like an empty like pine shavings bag, or one that's almost empty, and the chickens jumped down into the bag, dug it out, and made like a little makeshift nesting box in there, or in old bags of feed, or in a giant pot, or in an old grill, or I mean anything that they can get into. And chickens like laying on a clutch of eggs, which is the name for like a group, and I mean, and they'll all lay there every day, and that becomes the spot. So you think, man, suddenly I'm not getting any eggs at all, and then you go and find like the grand stash of like 20 eggs. So kind of follow them around and just go walk their zone, be at the level of a chicken. It's kind of like when you baby proof, right? Like you get down on your hands and knees and look at any potential obstacle. Do that and just follow your chickens around and see if there's any way that, that they're laying in a spot that's not what you had intended. The other thing was look for a thief. There are all different kinds of animals, from raccoons and possums to there are all different kinds of snakes that will come and steal eggs, like rat snakes, even squirrels. If food is short, if it's that time of year, there are animals who will come and steal them. And they can steal them from the nesting box if you have any way that a rat snake or some of those animals can get in, which of course is dangerous because if they progress, then they'll get in and they'll just start eating your chickens. But make sure that there's no way that, you can have a snake in there getting eggs or anything like that. Make sure you don't have a thief. For that, the only thing you can really do is double check your predator proofing, and I have videos on that. Or, I know this sounds kind of ridiculous, but buy a game camera, buy a wildlife camera, and it is a waterproof camera that you can stick out somewhere stationary, and it acts sort of like those motion activated doorbells, and that it's constantly running, but it's not going to record all the time. You can set it, hey, I only want you to record when you see motion. And if you've got it set outside your coop, obviously it's not going to pick up your chickens, it's only going to pick something that's out here. So, and then, I mean, I've always, if I ever had the money, I would buy one anyway, just because I want to see what kind of animals come around here late at night. I know we have possums. I know we have raccoons. And, you know, and this is in a neighborhood. You never see them. So you think you have predators, or I'm sorry, you think you don't have predators, but I'm sure you do. You just haven't seen them yet. But, I mean, they hear your chickens. They can smell your chickens. They know what's up. So setting up a game camera is honestly the best way to figure out if you've got a thief or not. But the scary part is if they can get in to get the eggs, that means the potential is there for somebody to get in and get your chickens. All right, so we've gone through those things. What's next? If your birds are stressed out, either in a physical way or in a social way, that can make them slow down or stop laying. And I don't mean like you need to go and sit and like put your chickens on like a red couch and ask them how they're feeling and you know, have them look at like, you know, ink blots and stuff like that. But seriously, if your chickens, like if you just got chickens, like these chickens are supposed to be laying age, but I've had them for you know, a week and they're not laying yet. Well, I mean, a chicken moving into a new spot, being an animal that is considered prey for a lot of things, they're going to be terrified of any change. You know, my chickens were mad at me and they weren't laying as well when I was out of town because I locked up that door and they lived just in the coop for 6 days. So that made them mad. If your chickens are too hot, they won't lay because, again, their body goes into bare essentials mode. The most essential thing for me to do right now is to cool myself off and for me to drink water. It is not to lay an egg. I do not need to lay an egg today. That is not helping me survive. So look at these brats. Their mister is about ready to come back on. They've got their fan. Their mister is set on a timer. They are in the shade in the afternoon. They have ice in their water. I spray the ground, but they're just laying around. But, you know, if I notice that their comb and wattles are not bright, like Lacey's getting a little bit pale. This sounds mean, but she's my fat chicken, so she's the one who I worry about the most because she's the one who's overweight. But if you have any kinds of problems with stress, you know, you've got a bully, you've got a rooster that's harassing your chickens all the time, you know, anything that could be causing a chicken stress, they don't have enough space, anything like that is going to be a factor. Another thing that's going to be a factor, like I just said, is if they're overheated. You don't really have to worry about a chicken being too cold, except, you know, here's my like disclaimer. If they are a frizzle breed, which is where their feathers like flip outward, it looks like old Nancy Drew style, or if they're a silky, they cannot control their body temperature, so you have to worry about them getting too hot and too cold. But if it's a normal breed of chicken that has the normal smooth waterproof feathers on the top, you don't really have to worry about them getting too cold in the winter. Chickens, and you can see other videos about it, so I won't talk about it very much, but chickens regulate their body temperature. They warm up by eating and by fluffing up their feathers because it makes like these little pockets of air that they heat up with their body. So chickens are pretty good about staying warm. It's when they get too hot that you got to be really careful. So if you think your chickens might be getting too hot, and I have lots of videos, I mean, hell, I'm in South Texas, so there's tons of content about ideas for keeping your chickens cool. But make sure your chickens aren't getting too hot. There were a couple of days where I think it was right where we were starting to get into the 90s, high 90s, and I hadn't set the fan on a timer yet. I was manually coming out and turning it on, that my egg count went down to like 1 a day, and it was like, okay, I'm sorry. You know, the good news about a lot of this stuff is that there's a lot of things that are in your control that you can help. You know, but your chickens will let you know. It's one of their biological ways that they're telling you, hey, maybe something is not right. Maybe, you know, we need something else. So those are the most common things. We can talk a little bit about the medical conditions. There are so many medical conditions that a chicken can have, and it's just ridiculous. You know, from parasites to cancers to reproductive disease to lash egg and all kinds of other goofy stuff. Unfortunately, when you get into the medical thing, you know, that's a problem for a couple of reasons. Number one, chickens don't like to show that they're hurt or that they're sick because, again, they're a flock animal. They are preyed upon. They themselves are not predators. So they don't want to look like the weak guy because either you're going to get bullied to death or you're just going to get excluded. Like, hey man, we don't want you hanging out with us because you're sick. Like, stay away. So they will fake and hide, whether it's a leg injury, whether they've got, you know, anything that they possibly can mask, they will for as long as possible. So a lot of times if you've got a medical issue going on with a bird, you won't find out until it's really bad. You know, and that can be bumblefoot, that can be a whole bunch of different things. The next thing is you've got an animal that essentially lives outside. So, you know, they're going to have, like, I'll be honest with you, and this is kind of gross, your chickens probably have some kind of parasite. They probably have some kind of worm. But, look at these birds. They're like, ugh, mom's doing another video. Ugh, lame. But for them having, this sounds so weird, for them having a little bit of worms or a little bit of parasites is not bad because they're an outside animal. I mean, they scratch around in the dirt. You know, they eat bugs, stuff like that. Like, it's going to happen. The problem is when there is an overflow, when their body is like, okay, I'm at capacity for worms, and that's when you start seeing them show up like in your chicken's poop. Like basically my body is overflowing, so we're getting the excess out via poop. That's when you've got a problem. You can choose to deworm your birds twice a year just for the hell of it if you want to. I've never bothered, but I mean, you certainly can. 1 dose of like ivermectin is the generic name of the medication that you can use, for example. 1 bottle of that will last you, years with a small flock, literally. So, and it's not that big of a deal to deworm them. A lot of it's kind of like the heartworm medication for your animals. It's just a little liquid packet, and you just like stick it on their back where they can't reach it in between their shoulder blades. Hey, I know it's hot. I'm waiting for your mister to come on. It's on a timer. It's all automated. You don't even need me at all. The other problem with having a medical issue with your bird is, chickens are usually really, really, really cheap to keep. Mine were Chick Days at Tractor Supply. They're like $2 each, and most of mine I got for free. And then, their food is like a 50-pound bag for $15. So we're not used to spending a ton of money on vet bills for chickens. So it gets really difficult. So I would just suggest, if you've looked through all of the other things that I've suggested and you still have an egg problem and you don't know what's up, first of all, figure out, is it the whole flock or is it just one? Like, she lays dark green, she lays light green, medium brown, light brown, dark brown. So I know when I get eggs, who took the day off and who was laying eggs. So I can start figuring out, okay, man, everybody's having a low day. Everybody's only laying 3 or 4 a week. Or she's the one who's not laying as much. Everybody else is laying like normal. So there's something going on with just her. Right? And using common sense, if all of them are laying lower than normal, then it's probably a dehydration or a stress type issue. If it's only one, then it's probably a medical issue. But then you need to kind of decide, like, okay, I can start looking through, and a lot of the stuff honestly is incurable. Things like cancers in chickens, there's reproductive disease. Lash egg is a weird condition. You can look it up. The photos are pretty gross. That wouldn't necessarily be like I'm getting less eggs. That would be like the eggs start looking really funky. A lot of other things, though, like a soft-shelled egg, those types of things it's a temporary, and that's a fix. You just need to change their food, give them more calcium. So, but keep track of your chickens. Have an idea of who lays eggs when and what color they are. Keep track of when they started laying. Keep track of if you change brands of food, if you start doing vitamins in the water or apple cider vinegar, anything like that. I would just keep a note, like make literally a note file on your phone or email yourself or have a piece of paper. I mean, I've suggested like put a Ziploc bag with a pen and a notepad inside your coop where it's waterproof, and then if you change something, you notice something weird, just write it down. That way you've got it. But hopefully this hits most of the main reasons, like why am I not getting as many eggs? Whoa, watch it there, Grace. That's why her name is Grace. She was just walking and she kind of went, ugh. Grace, are you awkward? So just trying to pinpoint, why am I not getting more eggs? The other thing I always advise, other than keeping a chicken journal, is to just hang out with your birds. Make sure everybody's doing chicken stuff. Everybody is, excuse me, trying to escape. Everybody is drinking, they're eating. If you're like me, when you come and let them out in the morning, you check and like watch for everybody to do a morning poop. So you can just look at it and be like, yep, looks like a chicken poop. All right, we're good. Right, girl? Your mistress gonna come on any second. See, and Lacey went and cooled down in the dirt. I don't know how much you can tell, but now she's a lot brighter again. She was a little pale, and now she's good. Gracie, right there, she's getting a little bit pale now. But their mistress coming on any minute, which is why I'm stepping back out. So hopefully this gives you main ideas on what's the deal with eggs. A couple more things really quickly. So in the winter, there's less hours of daylight, right? So you're going to get less eggs in the winter, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I keep my chickens for pets. They're not a big money maker for me. And yes, I love fresh eggs, but I personally don't want to do anything to stress out my bird or to basically make them serve me more, like literally to serve me more eggs. You can look into putting a light in the coop that basically extends the daylight hours for them in the winter, if that makes sense. So like even after dark, you have a light on in the coop that kind of tricks their body into thinking, oh, there's more hours of daylight. That can increase their egg capacity. But to me, it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to stress out their bodies. Let them just follow, the natural, the way the world is. That's totally fine. But that's another option. Other than for me, the electricity being like a fire hazard and a danger and something that kind of scares me, you know, that's totally up to you. If you wanted to look into doing that, that's just not something I could really give you much experience on. Look at them. So just know that there's going to be the normal, you know, the yin and the yang. You know, they'll lay more in the spring and in the fall. They'll lay less when the temperatures are the most extreme, the hottest and the coldest. And that's normal. Again, you can fight biology. You can fight nature if you want to. I choose not to. I just let them do what they're going to do, and that's fine. What are you doing, you brats? Ooh, girls. The color egg that they lay is in their DNA. So one bird will always lay the same color egg. So if you start getting eggs that are funny colors, that could be a sign also that something is going on. Because blue, for example, will always lay dark green eggs. If you've never watched a chicken dust bathe, it is absolutely adorable and hilarious. Because they're so awkward and they're so goofy. What they're doing is cooling off. We talked about those layers of feathers and how they use the air pockets to stay warm in the winter. Right now they're getting dirt and sand in between all of these layers. And what the dust bath is doing is it can help cool them down a little bit, but it's also helping, it just helps them with the itchiness if they're growing in new feathers after a molt, if they're about ready to molt and so they feel itchy, kind of like when you peel after a sunburn and they're like, and they want to get the old feathers off. It helps them. It's just a normal behavioral thing. So they're digging and getting ready to make one right now. It's just a normal behavioral thing to help them get rid of any kind of mites and lice that stay down at the pin of the feather, like down against the skin. It's just good for them. They like to do it. It's how they clean themselves. You know, most chickens don't like water. So like when the mister, I'm kind of hoping that the mister goes off here in a minute. Because when it turns on, they're all like, oh man, I don't like the mist. And they kind of go and like hide under there or they run outside real quick. But man, as soon as it shuts off, they come back in and they just love that cool, wet dirt. And they will lay in it. They will roll in it. Their feet are in it. And it's awesome. So I'm happy with the way that my chickens are laying personally because I know they're laying at a normal level for a bird that's 2.5 years old. Who's in, you know, the Texas summer. Sorry, girls. Like the heat index for today was 108. I'm comfortable out here. I'm glistening a little bit, but I'm not really sweating because I'm in the shade. They've got a fan. Their mister's going on. They've got ice. I'm not giving them treats or extra food in the heat of the day because remember that raises their body temperature. So I don't feel like I need to do anything to, you know, pump their bodies even more to give me more eggs, because that's not why I have chickens. When I get the battered hens, they'll probably be older than these girls. And I just want, you know, it's like kind of like adopting a senior pet. You know, like your racing days are over, your major egg laying days are over. Now we just want you to have like a nice life where you're not stressed out, where you can be out in the sunshine and have grass and all of that stuff. So if I didn't answer your question, if you watch this video and you're like, oh my God, I wasted 22 minutes of my life and I still don't have an answer, put it down in the comments. Here's my email address. I know some people try to like put photos and stuff here on YouTube. You can't do that, but you can email me if it's chicken related, of course. Let's keep it G-rated, people. But if you've got questions, if you're like, hey, this egg looks really weird, hey, because there's other things you can do. You could do a physical exam on your chicken, basically where you're looking at their cloaca or their vent or, you know, their butt, and you're checking out to see, you're checking out to see, you know, if that looks normal, you know, if it's really dirty back there, if it looks like it's blocked up, then you may have another issue. But again, you know, I want you looking at what time of year is it, how old is my chicken, are we talking about nobody's laying eggs like they're supposed to, is it just one or two, is there a chance that there's a hidden stash? When we built this zone for them, you know, they were in just the coop for a couple of months until we had time to build this extension. And it's basically like this was part of the yard. I don't want my kids back in. It's just kind of like this weird space. So the chickens get that whole space back behind the coop, all the way here, all the way around to the corner of the property behind the shed, and then right there. So like, you know, it's like a weird space. I wasn't going to plant anything, but I did go through and I looked to make sure there's no poisonous plants and to make sure that there were no like big bushes or anything, because if there were, then, you know, I wanted to make sure, okay, I need to, if I ever feel like I'm not getting any eggs, like I need to go walk back there and check. And of course we do as much predator proofing as we can. I keep my girls as cool and as comfortable as I can, because so help me God, we are not having any other chickens die due to the heat. And I will never forgive myself for when that happened last year. So, but again, if I didn't answer your question, put a comment here. This community on my YouTube channel, and those of you who are frequent viewers, number one, you guys are crazy. But number two, I really appreciate that everyone is so helpful here. Like, oh, I got this, you know, I got this fan off of Amazon. Oh man, that's amazing. And like, it has nothing to do with me or my intelligence or my, you know, good looks or anything like that. It has to do with this community is really just about like, hey man, like I'm totally fine being humble. I'm totally fine admitting what I don't know. Let's all help each other. Oh, you're in this part of the world? Okay, what do you do over there? Or what do you call this? Or like I had this weird quarantine chicken coop. There's a little tour video, and and my friend Dean, who's in the UK, he's like, oh yeah, that's called like an ark, or like a little, there's a different name for it. And then he sent me like all of these videos and stuff, and it was like, oh, so this community here on my channel is really, really good. And if somebody's not nice, then I typically nip them in the bud with a smile and a bless your little heart, because that's what we say in Texas, which is like a sarcastic, like, you know, F you type situation. But normally, I mean, we're really helpful here. So if you've got questions, if you have suggestions for somebody else when it came to the egg situation, and you know, the case of the why the hell am I not getting eggs from these chickens and I'm feeding them for free, like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this, you know, feel free to drop comments here. Again, you can't do pictures here, you can't put your own videos unless you put it on your channel, but I'm here to help. I love helping, I love learning. I do have more content that's coming soon. I know I've been saying that for a while, but now I really mean it. And I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama. I appreciate you guys very much, and we will be back really soon.